Good morning, everyone. Are you there? Good morning. My name is Pastor Isabel Call, and it is my joy to serve as the minister here of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Manhattan. And I am very pleased to introduce our convener this morning, Karen Hummel. This is her first time convening, and we're just really glad to have her in this role.
Welcome. Whoever you are, however you got here, whether you participate by Zoom or in person, please know that you are welcome here and that you are in the company of deeply thoughtful, generally agreeable, and generous folks with the capability for stern action in the face of injustice. The UUM vision statement is this: a vibrant, inclusive congregation. UUFM is widely known as a safe haven and a force for social justice. The UUFM mission statement is a diverse, evolving spiritual community acting for a better world. And to open, we have a phrase from a poem, Sacred Unknowing, by the Reverend Amy Carol Webb. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever the only answer to everything. Now we're going to switch a bit. Trayvon Martin lost his life 11 years ago. His name is Trayvon Martin. 11 years that name has continued as his name, although he has no body to represent it. He was born on February 5th, 1995, and died at the age of 17. At the time of his death, he was enrolled in a magnet school for the arts in Miami Beach. He was talented in English and math, but was starting to struggle in his studies. On this date, in 2012, Trayvon was shot by George Zimmerman, who was later acquitted of the crime on the basis of the Florida Stand Your Ground law. This is currently listed as Statute 776.013 in Florida criminal law. We'll be talking about circles today. There are all kinds of circles. Some of them must be challenged and confronted. We light this candle in memory of Trayvon Martin and all the other names whose lives have been extinguished needlessly. This is a photo of Trayvon Martin. A couple of people have said, "Oh, is that Patrick Mahomes when he was young?" Or somebody mentioned another, and I have forgotten what famous athlete it is, but yeah, he could be a famous athlete. Now I'll turn the mic over to Pastor Isa.
Thank you, Karen. The following passage was written by Tammy Livermont, a citizen of the Ogallala Lakota Nation. She writes, "The Black Lives Matter movement and movements for Indigenous sovereignty are connected. Through slavery and continued oppression, America has been built on the backs of our Black relatives. In the beginning, the founding fathers of the U.S. wrote the words, "All men are created equal" in the Declaration of Independence, while at the same time owning slaves. It is not surprising, then, that U.S. systems, such as the U.S. criminal justice system, would contain racist policies and ways of operating that privileged white people over people of color. This structural racism reveals itself in ways that also impact tribal communities and indigenous people. Native American and Alaska Native communities, women of these communities experience violence at disproportionate rates because of the federal policies that impact tribes' ability to prosecute non-Native perpetrators of violence against Native women. This means many victims and their families are unable to seek justice. Indigenous movements, including Missing and Murdered Indigenous People, known as MMIP, Land Back, Water is Life, share the same overall goal as the Black Lives Matter movement, which is breaking down and eradicating white supremacy and removing racism from our institutions, like schools, and systems, like the U.S. educational system. Indigenous sovereignty and Black liberation are intertwined. There will never be one without the other because the main culprit in both are systemic and institutional racism, rooted in white supremacy. When we can change these racist institutions and systems, both Black lives and Indigenous sovereignty and all of our lives will be honored and upheld.
We've come to the point where it's time to light our chalice as we move into this service on February 26th, 2023. And Sarah Desmet will do the honor of lighting the chalice as I read an excerpt from a poem, The Imprint of Love, by Laura Horton Ludwig. At times, we may fear that love will not be strong enough. At times, we may question whether love really is at the root of all things. In this world with so much struggle and suffering and discord, we may struggle to hold on to our faith in love. In the stillness and silence of our own heart, we read the imprint of love, created not by our own will, but planted there for us to discover. By what or whom we cannot know, and yet it is there, a clue, a talisman, a beacon, a light within. And now we will stand in body or spirit and join in singing the hymn 1013, Open My Heart. Oh, actually, do we need to stand for this one? We can sit with this one. Sorry, guys.
Welcome to stand if you need to move your body.
My heart to all that I seek, let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek, let me be part I seek, let me be part of the love. Open my heart.
All right. I'm coming up for a little bit of a fly by the seat of my pants time for all ages. If anybody is young in mind, body, or spirit, would like to, oh yeah, sure, that'd be great. Thanks, Sarah. To join me for our circle, or our story, it's all about circles. Hi, Gigi. You want to come up and read with me? Our story today is The Circles All Around Us, written by Brad Montag and illustrated by Brad Montag. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each side. A safe little place for just one person, nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you can see all that can happen in a circle full of care. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay, like Granny and Papa, Barkley, Uncle Hank, Granny, new cousins. Ooh, new cousins, yeah. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? I know I'd like that. So you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. Yet there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all that they do. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw a bigger circle for them too. It doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more we share. I'm team cake. I'm team pie. I'm really outgoing. I'm quiet and shy. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere, like with friendship donuts, my favorite kind of donut. As time passes, our eyes open, we see others we really care for, and that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really for? So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. I like that I can see all of their circles overlapping. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. As our circles grow and we watch them wonder-eyed. In space. Yeah, it's out in space. Remember, the first circle started with just the love you hold inside. Okay, we are going to do a little bit of a circle exercise here where I want our Zoom folks to be able to participate. So if we could get a show of the Zoom folks on, I'm going to ask you to stand in body or spirit and maybe make a circle questionable? What do we think? What do we feel, folks? If you want, we can kind of make a circle, maybe use the aisles, and we are going to do a show of some of the communities that we can identify as here at UUFM. So this is something that they do in OWL as part of their get to know you in their OWL class, as a way to help kind of feel comfortable within that space. So what we're going to do when they do it in OWL, they typically will step into the middle and kind of feel that circle. But we want to make sure that all of our friends are included here. So what we're going to do is, if you feel like you can identify as maybe one of the things that we call out, I want you to put your hands in front of your face and just give a big wave. And then we'll take a look around and see if you can find some people that maybe have some similar interests as you, that identify as part of your community. So the first one, I'm going to start with something that I deeply identify as, and that is, I am a person that really enjoys art. So if you are somebody that really enjoys art, either making or looking, I want you to put your hands up and just wave. Yeah. Okay, how about if you are someone that really enjoys being outside? If being outside is something that you really enjoy. Okay, how about a quiet day inside, maybe with a book or some other inside activity? Yeah. Maybe, how about if you identify as someone that feels very connected to the Manhattan community, if you've been here for a long time or you feel a deep connection to the Manhattan community? Yeah. Maybe you're more of a traveler and you feel more connected to spaces outside of the Manhattan community. You feel you're here in passing. Yeah. Okay, so you get the idea. Does anybody have something that they are curious about within our community? Does anybody have a question to our community at large?
I like puzzles.
Okay, Larry Weaver, if you like puzzles, do you like puzzles? Do your hands if you like puzzles. Yeah, so in OWL we do this as more of a, let's identify ourselves as a common community. So maybe if you identify as the oldest child. Middle children, can you tell? Youngest children, maybe only children. And within these circles, within these communities, we find connection. And so even though we are one big circle right now, our communities, we stretch and they are smaller and bigger and greater all at the same time. And that's something that we really like to celebrate here at UUFM. And at this time, that is the most of what I know I'm doing. So anything else, Isabel?
There's one more picture that we all want to look at, but you're welcome to find your seats again for that.
Yes, if you'd like to go back to your seats, we'll show the picture at the end. I forgot, thank you. Oh, that picture that was just up there, all of those circles. Yeah, this was art made by our RE group last week, I think. And it's just to further kind of visualize the circles that we are in here at UUFM. All of these were created and interpreted differently by each kid that was here, starting with different questions and how they identify. Maybe that's what their favorite food was. Was their favorite food pizza? Yes, orange. If it was tacos, they could do blue. So it's a way to kind of represent each individual, but as a greater art piece, you can see how we all fit together so nicely. So thank you. And it is time for our kids to go back for RE. So we'll start singing.
Okay, for my reflection, this is my first time as a convener. Think circles, but I'm going to deviate a bit on this theme. First, and also in the context that this is the last Sunday in February, and February's theme was love. First, a brief background. My personal journey of love includes a nurturing childhood, a passionate courtship and marriage, ongoing loving interaction with 3 children and their spouses, and 11 grandchildren. These days, my idea of love has commingled with understanding the natural world and with spirituality. It's gone that direction. In preparing for this last Sunday in February, focused on the topic of love, I ran across the following quote, which resonated strongly with me. Pierre Tyler Desjardins said, "Matter is spirit, moving slowly enough to be seen. What name should we, yeah, right? Okay. What name should we give this physio-moral energy to which all activities of the universe are finally reduced? Love. The conclusion is always the same. Love is the most powerful and still the most unknown energy in the world." Buoyed with that inspiring and optimistic passage, I started reading the UU reference materials provided to prepare for today and was stopped short by the calendar reference, Trayvon Martin is shot by George Zimmerman, February 26, 2012. What do I do with this dissonance? Is there any hope for us? How do we live in a world with injustice and violence? What can we do to make a difference? My inspiration here came from listening to a podcast interview with jazz pianist Brad Meldau. Asked where he took inspiration for his music, he cited many composers, but the thing his favorites had in common was that they employ a pedal point, one key note that runs through a piece, providing grounding to the melody, theme, and harmonies. Examples are J.S. Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier and Paul McCartney's Blackbird. Franz Schubert and Thelonious Monk also employed the technique. My takeaway was to find my resonant frequency for optimal joy and productivity, operate from that, and seek out others with compatible and harmonious frequencies, so to speak. Alone or in nature, at times, I can truly sense and move into that harmonious and energetic space. I can sense the essence of how things are in the world together, seen and unseen, heard and unheard by this limited biological being. Sometimes I can get a lot done while in that space. Other times it's enough just to be there. That, to me, is as close to the understanding of universal love as the prime creative force as I can get. Together with others, there are times when I'm aware of the common sense of urgency to act on behalf of a common goal, to achieve an objective, to right a wrong, to call attention to an important matter. When we are acting thus, it's like we're a murmuration of humans, aware of the sense of purpose and acting in accord. August 2 was a lovely example. We experienced a harmony of purpose, across an unexpected breadth of individuals and communities of thoughts, different circles. In my mind, that was love acting in recognition of the existential truth of a situation and joining force to prevent legislative tyrants from hoodwinking the Kansas electorate. If we remember that ideas and inspiration can manifest, are vigilant, and if we act together in love, positive change can result.
Thank you, Karen. Here at UUFM, the offering we receive on Sunday mornings go to a special organization each month. This month, our Helping Hands recipient is the Kansas Abortion Fund. You can donate online by going to uufm.net and clicking the donate link and choosing the particular fund to which you want to contribute. And if you're here in person, you can use the basket at the back. I'd also like to invite you to use this time to share your joys and sorrows this week. You can write them on these papers, and there are some at the back of the room if you don't have one handy. Sarah is also moving around with them, and she'll come around to pick them up as we listen. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to write in the chat your joy or sorrow, and Linda will read it later. And now to a wild rose. Thank you so much, Renee. So I have a handful of joys and sorrows to share, and an announcement also came in. Apparently there's a white van up here in the upper lot with Oklahoma tags, and the engine is on. So I don't know if that was intentional, if that's your van. I wonder if somebody might head out there just as a security check. Thank you, Sarah. So we've come to the time in our service when we share our burdens and amplify our celebrations. Let's call up a spirit of generosity, vulnerability, courage, and compassion as we listen to what has been shared. So I think we have all joys here in the sanctuary this morning. Joe shares a joy. It's been a joy reading the latest book I borrowed from Larry and being reminded of the awesome weirdness of our universe. Michael shares that Kathleen is slowly but surely recovering from a nasty condition, stomach bug, I believe, and still appreciates your sympathies. And I saw you're here with us, Kathleen, on Zoom, so sending you our sympathies here. Emily Fraser gives us this update, our 6-week post-op follow-up appointment. Says the incision has healed over nicely. I've been cleared to begin post-op physical therapy, making good progress, excited to be entering this next phase of recovery. Yeah, excited with you. And then Sylvia shares, Karen Hummel is an inspiration. She lives beyond the worldly preoccupation with things and events. I'm so grateful for her. So, Linda, are there joys and sorrows coming in on Zoom?
Yes, we have a number of people commented about Karen's reflection. It was very inspirational for her or for them, for the people watching. I'm trying to find my, come on. Yeah. And we have several joys. Lauren and Lynn say they had a joy. Friends from Canada and Arizona have been with us for the past few days. Fun projects and lots of good talk and meals shared. And Les Loschke said, spent a nice evening with friends for Mickey's birthday. Judy Nicholson shared that her joy is being part of this fellowship of deeply caring people. You make my life so much better, she says. And I will be happy to echo that. And Judy also adds, many thanks to everyone who helped me celebrate my 70th birthday by donating toiletries to the Flint Hills breadbasket. We took them a mountain of toilet paper and lots of other stuff. And we have no sorrows here this morning.
So, a lot of love in this community. It's really good to hear what is on our hearts and how we're connected. So we're going to take a moment to breathe in silence together, and when we come out of that, we'll have the opportunity to sing together a song, Building Bridges, and this is a round, a song that's a round, and but we're gonna sing it together, just straight through 3 times, and Renee will play the piano for us. I'm actually thinking, why don't we do this first, and then when we finish singing the round, we can just be in silence together for a little while. So we're gonna sing it through a few times, and then do you want to stop and talk people through the round? And I'm going to invite you, it's a meditative piece, but I'm going to invite you to rise in body, just so you can get you don't have to, it's optional, but so you can feel the earth under you, and be with everybody in body.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and sing it as a round now. This is group 1, group 2, group 3. And when we get towards the end, we'll just sort of do a gentle cutoff like that. All right, I'll start with group 1. Building bridges between our divisions, building bridges between sheltered nations, building bridges between sheltered nations,
So let's just pause for a few moments to breathe and smile and reflect. So I have words prepared and I'm going to share them. And I guess I want to start out in humility and, you know, we're bridging a lot of themes this morning. Love, this transcendent experience, mystical experience, embodied experience of well-being and goodness. We each have our own way of accessing it. It's not, our own way isn't certain, and sometimes it just comes, sometimes we just feel it. And then February, the month of love, so often about the love we cultivate in relationships. It's a good theme. And then we know about such difficulty in the world. We know that there are people whose lives are cut short, who are kept from experiencing that love. And it's just very hard to hold both of those realities, to release and surrender into the goodness of love with that sorrow and fear for the real experiences we know of it being absent. And so I can't resolve that tension. And I was reflecting on my reflection this morning. I was like, this is just grossly inadequate. Like, I don't know how to bridge that. But here we are. And we're willing to try and be honest about that. And the brief version of my reflection, I'll just give you the summary, is we don't know, but we know that we love, we know that humans are inherently good and loving, and a lot of the pain and the lack of love is a design problem. Can we just design our communities so that we can actually express what is deeply there? And I'm following the leadership of Paula Cole-Jones, who is one of the authors of our 8th principle, Unitarian Universalist movement, to accountably dismantle racism in our congregations and beyond. She understands it as not a crisis of will, but a design problem. So that's the preview. That's where I'm headed. A lifetime ago, I was preparing to move to Davis, California for graduate school. And I was looking for a place to live, and somehow I found out about the domes at UC Davis. It's a community of 14 fiberglass domes that had been built in the 1970s at the far edge of campus on an empty field. Domies, that's what the residents are called, over time had planted gardens. There were fruit trees and vegetable gardens, hammocks, a bike co-op with tools where you could go to get free help, a free pile full of treasures and junk, a big open yard for running around in, and a tree with a swing, and the campus and the city had grown up around that. I can see it out front. I can see us doing the same thing. Manhattan growing to us and around us. So I heard about the domes and I knew I needed to live in this paradise. So I found a domie who still had a spot in her dome for the coming academic year, but she was nervous about choosing me over the phone. You see, the domes are very small, like a 14-foot diameter for 2 or maybe 3 people, a tiny kitchen. But she took a chance on me, and the rest is history. She became and remains my family. Ina and I made a little home together in our 3-dimensional circle. She was the first and only person to call me Isa until I moved here and suggested you call me Pastor Isa. And incidentally, my favorite neighbor, Michelle, called me Isa. So calling me Isa also takes me back to the domes. Ina and I lived in each other's circles, and we lived in the larger circle of the domes, 28 or 30 people, and then the larger circle of the university, and the circles, they keep going. These radiating circles of belonging were central to my identity during that time. I described myself as a domie when I went on campus, and if people didn't know what that was, well, I told them and I invited them to dinner. It was a life-saving experience during a really difficult personal and emotional and intellectual time. The domes helped me center myself in the circle of my dome and remember that I was a part of bigger circles. I found that resonant frequency that Karen was speaking about, human murmuration. But I've been reflecting on my time there. I called Ina up last night to reflect together, and we realized it was almost paradise, but not quite. So what is paradise? The definition I'm working with today is the definition of beloved community that comes from the 8th Principle Project. Paradise, beloved community, happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, educational, class, gender, abilities, sexual orientation, backgrounds, identities, ages, come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care that seeks to realize justice within the community and in the broader world. Like this fellowship and many Unitarian Universalist spaces, the Domes was not diverse in all the ways I just listed. There was a lot of love. There were certainly interdependent relationships, mutual respect and care, but we were not intentionally oriented toward realizing justice. Within the broader world or even among ourselves, we cared about fairness, but justice, that sense of responsibility to restore or heal what is broken in our world through how we relate to each other, was not a conscious or even unconscious part of what brought us together. And so, though I really miss the Hobbit-like neighborhood, if I were to go back there and leave here, I would miss our vision. I would miss our intention to be a diverse, evolving, spiritual community acting for a better world. Here at UUFM, we are not yet the beloved community we know we could be, but we want to be, and that makes a difference. So how do we get there? How do we not only create the dance parties that will go down in history, that's what the Domes were famous for, but also beloved community? How do we do it? Well, first of all, it's important to acknowledge that we can't create beloved community on our own, individually. It's a group project, a group project that requires all of us and partnerships with those beyond us. And our culture of individualism, the ways that we have been conditioned to be individualistic, really makes it hard to do group projects. We do them, though, and we know that because we can see all of the communities that we're part of. The activity that Kat led us in earlier, some of the things that we waved our hands for represent communities that we're in, or potential communities. I definitely think we could start a puzzle-making community here at UUFM. We are each a part of many communities, but sometimes, often even, we still function like a group of individuals. I recall at a protest last summer, I think there were about 14 of us from here. I really wanted us to stand together, and I could not make it happen. I would go and find 2 people here and 2 people there and direct them to each other. But by the time they got there, the original people had drifted away. It was like herding cats. It doesn't just make it difficult for us to get a photo together. It also makes it harder for people to find us real time, to know who we are, and for us to build partnerships with like-minded groups. We believe that we're interdependent. But it's hard to move in tandem out there in the world, and we're not attracting the kind of diversity we want to live within. So Paula Cole-Jones of the Eighth Principle Project says that the persistent absence of beloved community, or the gap between us, where we are and where that is not about a lack of will or aspiration. It's a design issue. If we are to build bridges, we need to design those bridges and design a process for building the bridges. And the design that she proposes is a community of communities. Instead of thinking of ourselves as one big circle with different kinds of people sprinkled around it, we are a circle of circles, not necessarily concentric, some of them overlapping, some circles kind of hanging over the edge. We are the Wednesday lunch bunch and the Thursday coffee group, the 5 chalice circles, the folks who come here regularly on Sunday morning, the folks who come here on Zoom regularly on Sunday morning, the parents with young kids, the parents with big kids who were once young together, the racial justice team, the board of directors, each of these a little community. The community that Doug and Karen and Linda and I made this morning as we hosted this service. The Happy Kitchen Team 3 and the Happy Kitchen Team 1 and the Happy Kitchen Team 2, little communities. And the fellowship is a community of these communities, and we as a fellowship get our identity from the communities. So if we understand our congregation as a community of communities, we are able to identify many doorways for people to enter. They don't just have to come in that door off of Zinedale Drive on a Sunday morning to be a part of us. They might join one of these smaller communities as their way in. So our identity comes from these smaller communities, and our well-being comes from the connections among these communities, as well as our connections between these communities and those outside the fellowship. So I would say, and in talking to Larry, I would say our well-being as a fellowship is enhanced by the connection between his Happy Kitchen teams and the community of people who come together to eat on Friday morning that he serves. Our well-being comes from that link that little community is making. I know that there is a lot of concern here in the fellowship about growth. We would like to grow the fellowship. This idea of community of communities gives us a new perspective on how that can happen. Which existing communities can and should grow? What additional communities might we be called to create? And how do we connect all these communities more strongly? The word growth is not named in our mission, to be clear. I love growth, the growth of green things and children's. Like them, we want to mature, change, keep moving toward our potential. Growth is a love of life, a mission to fulfill our calling and a confidence that others out there share our calling and need us just as much as we need them. This kind of growth, rooted in love, happens through relationship. It's not about numbers of people, it's about the quantity and depth of connections between people. It requires each of us to do the awkward dance of meeting new people and seeing if we can love each other. You don't have to live together in a 14-foot diameter community. There are lots of different ways to love each other and to build those small communities. If we grow, when we grow, it will be because the communities you are already a part of have invited new people in or strengthened your connections here. Or it may be because we find new to us communities. We find purposes that are new to us, but aligned with our vision. Could be a campus club, a collaborative food forest, a booth at the farmer's market, a new monthly music event right here. Or we could share communities. We could, for instance, grow our social justice community by joining together with the social justice folks at First Congregational, or working more intentionally with Kansas Interfaith Action and the people who come together there. Or with the Unitarian Universalists in Salina or Topeka or Wichita. These are all congregations, incidentally, who don't have ordained UU minister. So there's definitely room for growth there, for connection, for greater alignment, greater getting to know each other. A growing community of communities is a movement. A movement is a community of communities that is working together to redesign the world. And that is an act of love. That's what I've got for love, is that effort of working together and the intimacy and vulnerability of being willing to do it in person, personally. We are growing because our communities are pursuing our mission in bigger and bolder ways. Not one big community sitting in a circle trying to agree on things, but smaller communities committed to sharing our constantly evolving vision. In the paradise in my vision, sometimes we're all wearing yellow shirts, and it's not just because we're intimidating legislators. It's also because it reminds us who we are. We are each other. It orients us outward into the bigger circle we know we could be. And it feels good and healthy to be visibly us. So I'm really happy to see that our community of owl kids have joined us, owl kids and teachers, and some other kids have come back in. So why don't we, as this community of communities, rise in body or spirit? We're going to sing a hymn, We Are Not Our Own. It's verses 1, 2, and 4 is what we're going to sing. And then we'll have a chance to honor and celebrate this community that just came back in. Thank you all. And yeah, I invite our OWL teachers up to the front of the room, and I see them gesturing to invite other people up here.
OWL for our third graders, kindergarten through third grade. That's our first, and then we do 4, 5, and then we do 6, 7, 8, and then we have high school as well. So we are happy today to announce that these 5 members of our congregation have completed our first OWL Level 1 curriculum. Margot and Carl, Lumi, June, and Porter. We can stand up. So is this a celebration? Yes. We were talking about celebrations today. As you know, OWL has been a UU curriculum for many years. We're happy to announce that the K2 curriculum has been recently rewritten, and we'll be using that in the future. The announcement came just as we were starting, so we didn't get to use the new curriculum, but it will be in place for next time. We do this with the United Church of Christ, First Congregational, together. Those two faith communities came together many years ago and decided that we needed a more comprehensive sexual education program than what was being presented in the mass media. And so we are very proud to take our first steps towards our whole lives together. Thank you. We have cupcakes. That's what's most important. Let's go. Cupcakes away.
But before the cupcakes come closing words and announcements. The closing words and the closing and the extinguishing of our chalice and our memorial candle. The words of Pamela Romanchik Why community? To remember that one is not a whole number, that we need both roots and wings, that strength comes from relationship and mutuality, that we know life in and through one another.
May it be so. Okay, so I don't want to hold you back from cupcakes for very long. I will say, just in case you don't know, our announcements come out weekly on Tuesday in our emails. And the monthly newsletter will be coming out on Wednesday. Next Sunday is going to be really fun. We're having Rabbi Moti Reber as our guest speaker here and at our regular service. And at 4 o'clock, we have a legislative forum with Yusha Reddy, Mike Dodson, and Sydney Carlin. So they will all be here, the three of them, speaking to the larger community here. Also, next Sunday, choir starts back up. So that's one of our key communities. And Michael had a few words he wanted to say to us just to let people know how that's going to work.
This is one of those occasions. Be careful what you wish for, because you might get it. Renee and I have been talking about putting back together a choir, and we submitted to our minister so back came a schedule for the next 12 Sundays. That's 4 in March, 4 in April, and 4 in May. We will be rehearsing here at 9:30 a.m. 9:30 a.m. Every
it's
other
actually
week.
9 o'clock a.m.
Yeah, 9 o'clock a.m. There we go. Thank you. Anyway, 9 o'clock a.m. we will be here. And we will be working together to select some appropriate music for us to use over the next few weeks. And so then we'll do Sunday, and then the next Sunday we'd sing, rehearse. So anyway, so that's the plan through March, April, and May, 12 times. And we look forward to having people here and on time and get to as many of these rehearsals and performances as you're able to. We've missed you. All right, bye.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody. Go in peace. Go get cupcakes. And those of you at home, I hope you have a good substitute for cupcakes.